Pokemon Sleep! So I finally can't wait to get a good night rest with my Pokemon. I was waiting years for this game to get renewed, and it finally happened. It is truly such a joy for a Pokemon fan to see this title once more, being one of the most ambitious Pokemon games with over 3 years of development. On a serious note, I was unironically hyped for it, but also ironically. I originally thought nothing of it when it was first announced, but as time went on, I for some reason started expecting big things from it. I'm not really sure why, but I think it had something to do with its long development, and so I assumed that it may have something huge to show. And then I heard that it could have also been cancelled, having forgotten that prior. I'm not actually excited for it. I really doubt that I would find any use for it anyways, but it's a cute concept and it really shows how Pokemon dips their toes into even the coldest of waters. But on to the thing that you want to hear me talk about. My non-existent assistant is telling me that I have to stall for some time. So first let's talk about the so-called filler of the present. And you're free to skip this part with the timestamps. First we have the World Championships new art, which I thought was cute. Okay, moving on. Then we got the TCG Classic Collection, which looks cool. Okay, moving. Oh wait, actually, am I the only one who thought it looked pretty similar to the police guy we saw in Scarlet and Violet's first trailer? No? Just me? Okay, moving on. Then we got a new Netflix stop motion series, which looked better than I thought when hearing stop motion. Okay, moving on. Now Pokemon Unites update looked neat. Okay, moving on. Cafe Remix looks adorable. Okay, moving on. Pokemon Masters new designs, especially Hops, looks also okay. Moving on. Oh wait, that's it? I needed more time to fill. Shoot. Okay, now let's talk about how I actually really enjoy these shorter segments. And I'm not saying that sarcastically this time. Pokemon is not just the main series, and it's nice seeing the other parts of the franchise that I'm sure many were excited to see. Unite still has a big fan base, including me when I had the time. Masters has awesome music, Cafe Remix has cute art, Pokemon Go surprisingly didn't have any big updates, but it still has many fans obviously. So at the end of the day, it is still nice to see all the love for all of these other mediums that Pokemon has, and I personally find it a nice build-up for the main event. Okay, have we reached the time needed to be filled? My assistant says no, but at this point we just gotta roll with it. Alright, first up we got the new Paradox forms of Suicune and Virizion. Virizion? I don't know. Personally, I love the originals and their trio, so I was excited to see them mesh. And so I was also surprised to see them stick with only one of the respective Pokemon from the trios. But at the same time, they still look so cool. I personally love the Suicune one the most, but quite honestly, both look really nice. I immediately after the direct caught walking away, and I was surprised to see how big it is. I absolutely love its draconic design, and wish there would be a good way to bond with it. I feel like in Sword and Shield DLC, it was hard to bond with whatever team I had, so it was more like I caught Kafu, for example, and bonded with him, and I didn't really have any other team members that I paid much attention to. And for my Crown Tundra team, I didn't really remember much either, though I do remember having trouble with Calyrex. I don't really have any memories with my Pokemon themselves, though the DLC does seem to include a battle area, but we'll get to that later. Let's now first move on to the real showstopper, the hidden treasure of Area 0, aka the DLC. I really love the Japanese theme they have going here, and also being based on Momotaro, a story of a young boy being found in a peach and being raised by this elderly couple after eventually deciding to go on a journey to the ogres or Oni who harmed their village and to take back what was stolen from them. Meeting along the way a dog, giving them what I assume to be mochi, and so the dog decides to join them, and then he proceeds to meet a monkey and a pheasant. The story ends with them getting back what they wanted and not being bothered by the ogres ever again. The presumed starter Pokemon are the dog, monkey, and pheasant in the Momotaro story, which is, I didn't really mention, but a Japanese folktale, and the Oni, or ogre, is assumed to be the legendary Pokemon, which is visually represented to us by the sign. The thing is, I wonder if we can choose only one or all three. It would make sense to choose one though, in terms of how Pokemon works, and it would parallel the Isle of Armor's Kanto starter choice. We also know that this will take place not in Paldea, but rather in a place called Kitakami. Interestingly enough, this can mean going north in Japanese, but you see, in Japanese, kanji can have several readings, and neither the pronunciation kita or kami are used in going north, but rather is pronounced hokujo, but it could also be read as kitakami. Kita has only one meaning in Japanese, referring to the north. So perhaps this Japanese-inspired place takes place in the north. It doesn't really have the snow, but it does line up with the Chinese-inspired bamboo forest in the north, and lines up with what is seen in the latter DLC. Moving on, kami can have many different readings, but the only likely meaning I could think of would generally be north, without getting too specific off of guesswork. So we can safely assume this will be a northern area of the game. And while we know this is not Paldea, I do wonder if this is the out-of-bounds area of the game. It is right off of the bamboo forest after all, overall, it's north, and we do know that the other DLC takes place specifically on the water, while we don't really know where this takes place. Moving on, we have the new Pokemon, who I really like the designs of. Also, new character clothes and haircut, awesome! But I do have a bit more of an out there theory. What if the Pokemon we're working with will deceive us? They all seem like tricksters, and in the art, they almost seem like they are part of the same gang as the ogre. I feel like all of the new Pokemon will be all on the same team, so maybe they are really all good underneath their surfaces or really all bad, I'm not sure. Interestingly enough, I did mean to write something earlier, so I'm sort of just gonna mention it now. And that is, what I believe will happen with the gameplay and everything, is that we will be discovering Kitakami, and in order to do that, similarly to the Slowpoke in the Isle of Armor, we'll be chasing the ogre Pokemon, or rather the one with the mask, with our 3 Pokemon or 1 or however that's gonna work, all over Kitakami in order to motivate exploration. Overall, the aesthetic also feels like this creepy ghosty atmosphere, and so I predict a ghost and grass type for the legendary. Maybe. In general, this is the DLC that I'm the most excited for. Next, we start off with one of the most striking atmospheres for a Pokemon game. The modernness feels almost uncomfortable, which SV had me feeling already, so it's a bell. But the atmosphere has me really excited to see what type of story they'll go for, especially as it's the latter DLC, which if we can learn anything from the Crown Tundra, is generally the more late game, story focused, and in my opinion, more fun area, which based off of how the first DLC is looking so far, has me hyped on so many levels. I really like how it seems almost like the school is underwater. In fact, it technically is. I'm really hoping that we'll be able to see the outside like an aquarium, though we probably won't, and the bridge leading up to it probably signifies that we'll be getting there with a boat. I originally thought that maybe we'll be going there with our legendary Pokemon, but assuming, like the Isle of Armor, it'll be geared towards a mid-playthrough run, so they won't want to block it out from a climbing restriction, assuming it's on the blocked off area, which is pretty late game. But maybe we'll end up going with Koraidon/Miraidon. It'd definitely be more fitting with our legendaries being able to take us anywhere we want, and it being an open world game, but either way, we'll see. And also, we get to see that our classroom is outside. Wait, that isn't outside. Our classroom windows are actually projecting a sky, or at least it seems that way. It's also backed up by the fact that on the website it says that they are underwater, that most of the school is underwater. So it makes sense, especially that it seems to be very futuristic. Now onto the most interesting part of the entire trailer, and that is the new map that we can see. The landmarks actually appear in the same places as Paldea, but the map itself seems to be different. It also looks to be in the southwest of the map, which makes absolutely no sense. Even if it is to the northwest, it still has no area to connect to, and it looks like it's also connected to more landmass than we can right now see, unless they just decide to make an entirely new region, which if so, I'm definitely fine with that. A theory I have is that this is a future Paldea, but that doesn't really line up with anything other than the themes of the game, so I doubt it. We also see a snippet of art, but it doesn't really show much. We also then see a battlefield, which I think made all of us assume it is a battle facility, which I think is likely, but what it seems like is that it's actually the school's battlefield. So we'll probably be battling against the Blueberry School's trainers or students. I really love the designs of the characters for the school. They all embody some personality really nicely, and I'm excited to see what they are about. If I had to guess, the bottom 2 characters will be for Scarlet and the top 2 for Violet. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd really like if all of them are available, but I doubt it because for Sword and Shield, they did have exclusive characters. I also find the poses for the art to be pretty interesting, but I don't think it means much. Well, the story's up in the air for this one. A theory I have that I'm pretty confident with is that there will be a facility where Pokemon live underneath in the school. Think of, let's say, Pokemon Journeys, this facility, where we can explore and perhaps catch the Pokemon there. The story also revolves around Terrapagos, which works with the color scheme, but after that, I have no clue. They both seem to revolve around a mystery, which I find interesting. The first one feels spooky and the second one feels sci-fi. It's very cool atmospheres for Pokemon to work with, and so I can't wait to see how it all turns out. So my assistant again? What do you want? Me? Oh, of course, I can't end this video without talking about the 2 new characters that appear in the DLCs. I mean, I can, but that would be pretty boring. So, there are these two new characters that appear in the DLC. Either way, these two new characters do pose a lot of questions. For example, why do they appear in both DLCs? This did not happen with the previous one. We did not have any characters that came from one to another. They do seem to be from the Blueberry School, but they do appear in the first one. What I feel like is the most likely is that they will almost be like foreshadowing, sort of like the Slowpoke had a small event before either of the DLCs came out to sort of like get us into the Isle of Armor. So I feel like it's just gonna be like that, but instead of the first DLC, it'll be for the second DLC. That's my guess at least, but I'm sure that they will have some type of characterization and plot significance maybe. I'm definitely very interested to see what they will do. And finally, I want to talk about something that I found it to be very interesting. And I'm actually really excited for this year because I sort of wanted a break here. I now feel like I could finally replay games and sort of all of those things, which I think is funny because it really shows the timeline we're living in. But either way, what I find to actually be probably one of the most interesting parts is that the DLC costs $35 instead of the normal $30. Now, I'm not sure if this was a mistake or what, though I doubt that, but it really shows what more confidence they have in this. And it really shows because these DLCs will be releasing much later than the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra did for Sword and Shield, which I find I find it so incredibly intriguing how it's both more expensive and will also be releasing at a much later date, which makes me think that they will be putting a lot more into this than normal. In fact, this is really enough time that they could be doing who knows what with it, and I'm really excited to see how it's all gonna turn out. But either way, these are just my rambling thoughts. So what did you think of the Pokemon Presents and the DLCs, and what did you think of my analysis on all of it? Because I definitely feel like I'm spot on, but I'm probably gonna be very wrong. So if you like this video, please give it a like, and if you like me, maybe subscribe. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for watching.